Okay, it's 7 o'clock, we have a quorum, we're gonna start the meeting, is everybody ready? You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Acknowledge that we have a quorum, there's 3 out of the 5 board members here tonight. First item is the approval of the minutes for the meeting held April 22nd. Everybody have it in their packet, do you have any questions in regards to the minutes? I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting held April 22nd.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes, thank you. Next item is C, request to speak, Crystal Coots. What?
First, I have my engineer, Todd, who will play most
You said your name's Todd? Todd Polk with CFS Engineers.
Hang this out. So they own the old Golf Crest Golf Course property, and, after some,
What's the name of the golf course?
it's the one there on Golf Crest.
What's the name of it?
The golf course is gone.
Yeah.
It's not from the city golf course, I think, originally.
No, that's not the one.
Crystal Curve, how do you spell Curve? K-U-R-Z.
No, I could've guessed that.
We had it in our deal, T-U-T-Z. Is it T-Z?
No.
Just-
Oh,
okay, so we had
sorry.
a run down, I apologize
I'm
for that.
sorry. I knew how to see. I got one letter wrong, sorry.
So some time has passed since we were here last. Since then, we have an approved preliminary plat, for the single family, which is the green area, kind of on the east side. So, with that, there's also been rezoning for multifamily. You can see the apartment complex section kind of in the center. And then the plan for the remaining 52 acres, it says cabin retreat. We're talking about small, homes. We don't have those exactly identified, but we know they're gonna be just small 2-bedroom homes.
You know the number of them, roughly?
Well, so the table there, so there's 43 single family lots, that we have.
Oh, okay,
approved
gotcha.
for the preliminary plat. The cabin retreat, there's, with the clubhouse and the pool, that's 105.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was
And
looking
then-
at the map, I didn't
Yeah,
see.
and then your apartments, with the clubhouse and pool, we counted 109. And so.
Are these short-term rentals?
At this time, the city does not allow short-term rentals, so, we're trying to determine how we're going to market those. I don't know if you've ever been down in there, but developing a regular subdivision lots is not gonna work up in that bowl, so.
Right.
We're just looking at what the maximum we could do there. It may be that we can't put that many in, but as suppliers, you need to know what our worst case scenario is, and this is what we think. And so, they're ready to go on the single family, and so, we're trying to just determine what water is available, and, if you're gonna be able to serve the area, and if not, what we can do. But they're ready to go, and we're to that point. That's kind of really what we're just trying to let you know what we're doing and see what's, you have available.
Well, our engineer's also here too, I think possibly you guys need to compare notes on timeframes and that type of thing, and give Jerry on what we need to do to determine what kind of volume we have for you. And do you have Jerry's contact information?
I think
I think that's probably where we need to work it out, and Jerry can probably, go ahead and release reports and determine what we need to do.
Say your last name again, please.
Polk, P-O-L-K.
along Golf Crest, there's water, and there's water serving these lots. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. Pardon?
Are they interested in a development agreement? They have the money to rebuild the system.
We could discuss that, yeah.
We need to have a conference and see what really needs to be done with the option.
Okay.
These are your two guys definitely to be talking to. get
I'm
the game
their
plan.
attorney.
Or
Okay.
he's our attorney, specializes in water districts, and then Jerry's our engineer.
Okay. Very good.
Would you consider moving this project forward, would you consider you all installing your own infrastructure for the water and us providing a larger hookup for that? So say if you wanted in your first phase, you put in, I don't know what size mains you're trying to run in there to facilitate that, but running your own mains and us providing a hookup off of our main just to feed your infrastructure and it be under the maintenance of the houses after that is done and our maintenance within that meter. So say if you're putting in 4-inch infrastructure, we provide a 4-inch tap with a 4-inch meter and we meter the whole, every phase individually.
At this point, we would look at any options. You know, if the numbers work, certainly they would look at that as an option. Obviously, we prefer for it to be just a standard utility, but, that's certainly something we can consider.
Okay.
Golf Crest is a 4-inch, isn't it? Coming down Golf Crest, okay. You get their contact information?
I have it.
Okay.
Give me your notebook. I never have a card. Did you ever do that?
Oh, all the time.
You can also contact me at the office and I can give.
Okay.
I
And
can-
you're Amanda?
Uh-huh,
Okay.
I can get you their information.
So the multifamily would be more than likely your phase 2? This is phase 1, you're looking at this as
Yes.
phase 2 more than likely.
Yes.
And then this would be after the fact.
Hopefully sooner rather than later, but yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to happen here, so.
You're gonna start with the homes, and you think, how many homes? 52 homes?
43.
43 lots. Is that you're taking notes? Do you guys, since you guys are probably gonna have the most questions for this gentleman, do you guys have any more questions for him?
Well, I doubt if the crowd wants to go through
Yeah.
an hour.
We can do that offline.
Hour figuring out how.
We'll get you guys all in
how to
contact and work out some details.
All right, that sounds great, thank you so much.
Okay, the next request to speak is Don from Kimberly City Government, City Administrator.
I have handouts of my presentation, if anyone in the audience would like them. I'll just let you pass them around. Okay, I'm gonna try not to stand in anybody's way. But again, my name is Dawn Gardner. I am the city administrator in Kimberly City. For full transparency, I do live in the PWSD Water District, but I am here representing the city of Kimberly City and how we want to move forward, and we need to be partnering with our utilities that are available in our city. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the history of Kimberly City and the water districts and go from there. So, am I in everybody's way? And,
Hit the space bar.
dang, it was working earlier. Okay, so here we go. So first I want to talk about where we are right now. This is from Kimberly City's comprehensive plan. We have a total of 8 different water districts in Kimberly City. We do not have centralized water. Now, PWSD number 1 is our biggest water district with, and these numbers might not be accurate, but they're in the ballpark. 855 connections is the last number that I was told. I do not know if it's changed, if we have more or if we have less. Our second biggest water district is Missouri American on the east side of 13, where they have approximately 200 connections. And from there, we go to Schooner Bay with 175 connections, Ozarks Clean Water with approximately 80, and then Turner Water District with approximately 40. Those are our biggest water connections. So with just these being shown, that's 1,400 connections, and PWSD has 61% of those 41 connections. So PWSD is very critical to our city, for the growth of our city. Oh yeah, I can't use that. So, where is the city now? Again, we have no centralized water. We have no partnership with our largest water district. We have no ability to annex for additional development property. And growth of the city is stagnant and has been for years. Cities and water suppliers should be partners and work together. So why is this not happening? I want to just talk a little bit about the history of the partnership, or lack thereof of the partnership. I've only been in this position for not quite 2 years, so I'm still a little bit new, but I've done some research, I've talked to people, I've looked at studies that have been done with the water district and with the city, so I will just tell you what I know. In 2010, so again, that's 14 years ago, the city of Kimberly City did a water consolidation study. Olson was the engineer that did that, and there was, I don't know why, it could have been cost, it could have been nobody knew what to do, I don't know why, but there was no movement on anything in that study. In 2017, PWSD had an engineering study done. Again, Olson was the consultant who did that study. There were many recommendations for solving issues. I do not know what recommendations have been completed, but what I do want to point out is that in that study, consolidation was not recommended, which is a serious issue for our city. Basically, the report said Kimberly City water systems have considered consolidation for many years, as discussed in section 4.1. Consolidation would benefit the smaller water systems by providing them with needed funds and resources. However, it is unlikely that it would benefit the district in the same way. As the largest water provider in Kimberly City, the district would need to commit more resources to consolidation than it would receive. Makes sense. This would likely prevent the district from addressing the issues identified in this report for some time, negatively impacting the district's customers. So in 2017, the engineering study was done, identified several issues that the district had internally. That's a fact. With those issues, it wasn't recommended that it would be good for the district to consolidate water systems, and I understand that. But we need to solve the problem. We need to move forward. So, again, the study also said, based on the feasibility of the alternatives provided in discussions with the district, the alternatives that will best solve the district's water system issues are the addition of a new well, which I think you guys, did you do a new well? No. You still have 2 wells.
2 wells.
Okay. The construction of an elevated storage tank, meaning a water tower, or that's how I'm taking it. Distribution system upgrades and reducing water losses to 30% or less. So PWSD has some issues to take care of out of that study. So of course it doesn't make sense for PWSD to take on other water districts. I understand that completely. I gotta set that down so I can use it. there was, City of Kimberly City, had a meeting with all water providers from what I understand, and nothing went anywhere. In 2023, the city, being me, I did address PWSD board, I think it was in March or April, regarding the dire state of PWSD's water system. Just remember, my job as a city administrator is to move this city forward. So, I have concerns. During that meeting, I pointed out from the 2017 study, there was lack of maintenance for many years. It is no one in this room, it's no one's fault. There's been a lack of maintenance for many, many, many years. There's been a lack of a line replacement plan, again, many, many, many years. No rate studies have been done for many years, no increase in rates for many years. We have a high leak rate, there's pressure issues, no fire flow, which is critical for Kimberly City, and there's no future planning for fire flow. In that meeting, I addressed the need for centralized water for the city as a whole. I also brought my concerns about the lack of resources of PWSD. And I did ask the board to consider dissolving so the city could move forward with a company that has the resources to move us forward. So let's talk Missouri American and city administration and leaders. The city must have centralized water to thrive. We need to be partners with our water districts. We need to move forward to create one water district. Our development is stagnant. I have been dragged through the mud. I've been accused of being bribed by corporate water companies, and for us to work together, this has to stop. It's unprofessional and it gets us nowhere. And I can assure you, I have not taken one bribe. I have integrity. I wouldn't have lasted in government for 30 years if I was that type of a person. These are just two screenshots of some social media messages, social media posts that were accusing city leadership of taking bribes. Anyway, have I talked to Missouri American? Yes, I have, because that's my job as a city. And if you think that I'm only wanting Missouri American because I'm taking bribes, that is not true. Missouri American is already established here. Why would I go talk? Why would the city go talk to another utility when we're working on centralized water? Bringing another utility in defeats that purpose. Missouri American is already established here. They are the second largest water district in Kimberly City. And again, they're already established here. They are interested in helping the city become centralized and helping the city move forward. They're willing to come to the table and partner with us. They have resources. Okay, so let's move on, immediate city needs. Okay, our city operates by a comprehensive plan. A comprehensive plan shows how we want to grow as a future, what we need to do. Water consolidation and fire protection is spelled out in our comprehensive plan as one of the high action items that is needed for this city. You can see priority high, implementation steps that they recommended. Create a water system task force to devise a plan for discussion with water providers. Maybe that's what was trying to happen in 2021, I don't know. Establish common objectives between water companies. Create opportunities for consolidation to occur. Consolidation of water companies will promote expansion and upgrades. Expand and upgrade existing systems to adequately sustain the existence of fire flow systems for the protection of businesses. This is spelled out in our city comprehensive plan that the citizens had input in and that our Planning and Zoning Commission and our Board of Aldermen adopted. So we are all on the same page that this needs to happen. Let's talk fire flow. Southern Stone County Fire Chief has approached the city of this dire need. Currently, fighting large fires are done by hauling in water in tanker trucks. This is a detriment to the city and the development. When developers come in, when businesses talk about relocating to Kimberly City, when they hear that they don't have fire protection, or if they have to build new and install sprinklers, they're gonna have to build an elevated tank. That's a lot of money. Developers say, no thanks. We need trunk lines along Highway 13, both north and south. We need water supplied to housing developments. You just heard from Crystal Kurtz and Todd Polk. They are the owners of the old golf course. Housing is a need for Kimberly City. I don't know where it's gone now, but I had a meeting with a developer that was interested in buying that property, but he was told by, I believe he called PWSD and was told by the office that they could only supply water to 6 to 8 houses. He cannot develop a housing development by only building 6 to 8 houses and that being financially feasible. It's unacceptable not to be able to provide water for development, residential development, especially when it's a high need, not only in Kimberly City, but in Stone County in general. We have a chamber that has a Launch Stone County economic development program. Housing is the #1 need in this area. Oh, sorry, I'm getting off. We need a water tower and we need development. I just did a citizen survey from the city. Every single response back wanted more development. I shouldn't say every single, there were a few, but I will be releasing all of that information and those numbers at our board meeting next month, which starts tomorrow. So our citizens want development. They want more restaurants. They want more businesses. Current issues. I know that water loss is still averaging 70% in the PWSD district. There's a lack of resources to fix the existing leak rate. I know you've been working on PVC replacement, and that helps with the pressure from what I understand, and kind of helps the leaks not occur, but it's not fixing the actual leak, but it's helping. We need to begin replacing our aging infrastructure in PWSD. The cost of running 1 mile of polyethylene 8-inch, whatever that is, pipe is approximately $1 million per mile. Replacement pipe must be installed correctly, not on top of rock. This area is hard. This area is going to be more difficult to get water systems in, but you have to do it right. 8-inch pipe is the only size that should be installed for planning for future fire flow, which is not happening. So any pipe that is being installed into a new house, being replaced, if we want to plan for future fire flow, it has to be 8-inch. Okay, let's talk about rates. I hear a lot, well, we don't want to go to Missouri American, we don't want to go corporate because they're going to double and triple our rates. The thing is Missouri American, Liberty Utilities, all of those utilities are regulated by the PSC, the Public Service Commission. PWSD is not, which is fine, but PWSD can raise rates as many times per year as much as they need to, as much as they want. Missouri American does not raise rates annually. It costs so much money for utilities to go to the PSC to ask for rates to be raised, and it's an 11-month process. Their average ask of raising rates is every 5 years. Also, I feel like that there's false information being spread. There's an argument, again, that rates will double or triple if under control of Missouri American. This is untrue. I looked at PWSD rates on the website currently. I don't know if they're the most current rates because I know that there's been some rate increases. So for example, the monthly minimum is $26.38. That's up to 1,000 gallons. And then it's 0.412 cents for each additional 100 gallons. So if you get billed for 3,000 gallons, that's $34.62. I went on Missouri American, their website, and got these rates. Anybody can see them, they're right out there. Their monthly minimum is based on meter size. So I had to figure out what is the average meter size on a house because I didn't know. According to Google, it's 3/4 inch. And according to City Utilities, I did call a resource at City Utilities, the average is 3/4 inch, it can go up to 1 inch. So I just used 3/4 inch meter. So their minimum, their cost to a customer that has a 3/4 inch meter is automatically $13.61 a month. And then per 100 gallons, they charge 0.83781 cents for each 100 you use. So your total bill for 3,000 gallons is $38.74. That's only $4 more than what we're paying right now for PWSD. So I just want the false information to stop because we need to make the best solution to moving the city forward. And if we can do it as PWSD, I think that is great. So in looking at the history of PWSD in the past year, I was on the short-term planning committee, so I did have access to some of their financial documents. In my opinion, PWSD will require an increase of possibly triple their current rates before even passing a bond that they are discussing passing. So right now, a triple your rate would be close to a $100 bill each month for only 3,000 gallons. How much more will rates go up if a bond does pass? I'm just using this as an example. The city has a sewer bond that we currently owe $2.8 million on. Our payments in the past 5 years have averaged anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a year. That's just on a $3 million bond that we refunded in 2013. So that's some perspective about how much money it's going to possibly take to have a bond significant enough to be able to fix the problems. So, a bond issue and rate issues are a concern for the city. It's not just the residents of PWSD. It's a concern for the city as well. Water rates affect citizens. Water rates affect development. High water rates equal people moving out and very few people moving in. High water rates equals development going elsewhere. So it's time to move forward. I'm gonna go really fast. The city needs to move forward now. We can't, it's been 14 years since we started trying to partner. We're losing development, we're losing young people who wanna move here. We need a water tower, we need trunk lines along 13, we need partnership with a water district willing to work together with us. We need to put the past in the past and move forward. Citizens want development, city needs to hold public meetings to discuss water and development so we can start moving forward, so we can start making a plan. Vacationers want development. Without residents and visitors, businesses die. Without progress, cities die. That's all I have to say. I appreciate your time. Probably don't have time for any questions, but I'd be willing to, you can email me questions or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer them. Again, I want to be able to work solutions together. I want all of the madness to stop because we truly do have a beautiful city and it needs to thrive. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Don. We'll move on to item D, which is financial reports. Alan?
Does everybody have a copy, I think, of the financial statements? Your financial statements are comprised of a balance sheet, a profit and loss for the month of April, and a profit and loss for year to date. You also should have a detailed list of all the checks written in April for your own review and questions, and you also should have a summary of payroll paid by employee for the month of April, and I think I put year to date on there. I don't have a copy of that, but I think it's on there. So you got all that to review. Let's start my presentation just with the balance sheet. And we're just gonna hit the highlights on the balance sheet unless whatever questions you want, just fire them back. April is not a good month to start out with, and you're gonna see that in your cash balances. Particularly the operating account at Southern Bank that ends in 9094, that balance has dropped down to $14,000. That's just the operating account, of course. In total, the bank accounts are total $45,000, and the certificates of deposits have $290,000 in change. So there's still just shy of $350,000 in cash. There's not an alarming situation going on even with the bad months for exhaustion of your cash funds. But we do need to monitor the profit and loss pretty closely because the cash balances are going down. We did, just to refresh the board's memory, you raised the rates in, I think, January, February, maybe January. I have proposed, based on a rate study, an increase in those rates. And just to not have back-to-back rate increases, I have asked for a few months to get some normalcy because there have been a lot of changes in staff and expenses in January, February, and March. And I don't want to recommend a rate increase until I kind of see some stabilization and the new normal for the financial statement. So the rates that I saw up on that presentation were accurate, and I have preliminarily proposed a rate increase to leave the base the same at the 2638 and maybe increase the cost per extra 100 gallons to 55 cents. It's possible if the financials continue on the trend we have seen year to date, that may need to go up to 70 cents or in that neighborhood, maybe higher. If you compare that to, I can't remember the company,
Missouri American.
Missouri American, and those were two different types of rates because the base rate was lower and the other rate was higher. I don't know where it will end up. April was, like I said, not a great month, so the rates are going to have to go up again in my opinion. I don't really want to make a recommendation based on a bad month either. I would like to see 3 or 4 or 5 months with your new expense and employee structure stabilized so I can see exactly what it will take to project that. So that's just an update in the middle of this financial report on the rate increase. I'm not panicked about it, but I do think I think I said June or July, and I think I'll make a final recommendation in June or July. If anything now, it might be trending up, but that's based on observing a financial statement that's not the best for April. I don't know what May will hold. Okay. So total cash position is, including CDs and cash, a little less than $350,000. There is no outstanding debt on this balance sheet. There are the only obligations that the district has are customer meter deposits of about $68,000, and then just routine accounts payable for sales tax, employee payroll taxes, etc. But the big thing to monitor on your balance sheet is the cash. And right now it's going down a little bit. Questions on the balance sheet? Well, the meat and potatoes really here are the profit and loss. And you've got two of them, one for April and one for year to date. Water sales have been consistent. I'm gonna start with April if you guys wanna look at your April one. That isolates only the month of April. Everyone got that? Water revenues are up a little bit, and it's really not the result of usage, it's the result of the rate increase. We're not seeing a dramatic increase in water sales revenue because there wasn't a dramatic rate increase. Water sales for the month of April were $34,600 and change. We had some penalties and some reconnect fees, some other income that amounted to about $1,200 or $1,300. So the total revenue for the year for the month was just shy of $35,000. As you scan down the expenses, you really see two big expenses that are dominating the total expenses section. One of them is payroll, and the total for that was a little less than $12,000. And then the biggest one was system maintenance and repairs, and that was at $32,000. Now, I haven't seen a month course, I'm new, but I haven't seen a month that's 32,000. This was an anomaly. And I have, if you want to see the detail of what's in that 32,000, I printed a separate report for that. But most of them are system maintenance and repairs, probably for fixing leaks, buying equipment, supplies, etc. And I don't know, I don't expect that amount, but I'm not a water system operator, so I'm an accountant, take that with a grain of salt. I would not expect, if I look back historically at your repairs and maintenance, that number to be as significant as it was in the month of April. There's contract labor in there, like I said, there's equipment purchases in there, et cetera, that have been higher than historically experienced by the district. But your total expenses, and the payroll is higher again because the employee structure is different based on what was hired in January and February. We've got 3 new positions that are full-time, and so part of that rate increase that you did was designed to cover that payroll cost. I think the additional rate increase that I recommend will help with that. But your total operating expenses were $52,000. That led to an operating loss of $17,000. There was a little bit of interest income, $147, and that left you with a net income of $17,000. Concerning, not panicking, we know the rate increase is not in there. I also tend to think that system maintenance and repairs line item is gonna be higher than you're gonna see in the future. I hope, but that is unpredictable, so we'll just have to wait and see. If we look at year to date, just to kind of see what leveling effect, you can look at that page, and there's a separate report for that. Water sales year to date are $123,000. There's some late charges, penalty, reconnect fees that amount to between $5,000 and $6,000 to bring your total revenue up to $128,000 for roughly the first third of the year. And that revenue, I suspect, those are low usage months. January, February, and March. April's a little bit higher. So we're on pace to have an increase in water revenue for the year, especially as we move into the high usage months. But we still have the issue as you scan these expenses, operating expenses. There's the same 2 big expenses, payroll expense and system maintenance and repairs. Payroll expense $42,000 and change. You can see system maintenance and repairs for $85,000. There's another big one, the property and liability insurance plus workers' comp was $10,000. The rest of the expenses you can scan through and ask questions if you like, but just ordinary course of business expenses to bring your total operating to $177,000. And that leaves us with an operating loss of $48,000. Again, we've got a new structure in terms of expense for employees. We have a fair amount of system maintenance and repairs, and we have a pending rate increase that's gonna have to address this. Interest income helped buffer that a little bit, it's $2,300, but we still do have a loss of $46,000 for the month. That's maybe about $11,000 or $12,000 per month for the first 4 months. And part of this may be from non-recurring expenses, but part of it is because the rates are going to have to go up in June and July. And I'm not exactly sure where that is, I'm not planning right now on suggesting the base rate, but somewhere in that 55 to 70% rate would not surprise me when we present this in June or July. There are plenty of cash reserves right now to address this, and that's why I'm not forcing the issue. I'd rather take a month or 2 and give you a rate increase suggestion that is adequate than not. What questions do you have for me on this?
Well, obviously, we got personnel changes, and we have personnel changes that are still happening, so, we need to get a baseline, we just don't have that yet, so I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, it's concerning, but I don't think panicking and making an adjustment right now is the right course of action. We're 60 days in from pinpointing where it needs to be. Do you have a question there, Bill?
You have customer count at the moment?
I don't have that system report. Do you have that?
I don't have that on me. I'm terribly sorry. Bill, I can email that to you tomorrow, I can get that to you tomorrow.
That number, Bill, is somewhere close. The 800.
855, I guess, what Don
Very
had on
close,
there,
yeah.
so it's gonna be pretty close. Anybody else have any
What
questions?
other questions on the financials?
I mean, I'm assuming that your reserves are, your certificates of deposit?
Because there's no outstanding debt, there is no formal debt service reserve fund or replacement and extension fund that is required. So you're not seeing anything labeled like that on the financial statements, but yet practically speaking, those certificates of deposit are functioning as the reserve funds for the district, yes.
I mean, that's gonna get gobbled up pretty darn quick based on the fact that you've already lost 46,000
Yeah.
just through the end of April. And it's all about expenses. If you don't control your expenses, you're gonna lose it all quickly. And I've only been here a week, so I haven't had a chance to really dive into this. But, I'd like to get the reports from January, February, March, just the same ones like these.
I mean, yeah, I'll get
dive
you.
into it a little bit
Yeah,
better.
I'll get your email address out to me and we can email.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Any other questions? Anybody else? Okay, so we have a approval of disbursements. And again, this is a new format, so we're kind of going through it and understanding. We have a disbursements of $51,808.04. That I need approval on. Need a motion as such? I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussions on the transaction by accounts sheet? All in favor, show of hands, aye.
Aye.
Amanda, did you wanna add anything to the financial report other than what Alan has given us already?
Not necessarily, the White River, account is on there as well, it is down a little bit this month. I don't really have anything else, Alan and I are in pretty constant communication, so we're pretty on the same train.
Okay, we'll move on to operations report, and John got in on it.
Unfortunately, I did not get these into your packet beforehand. I've been put April and May both on, this one since it's so late in the month, we did have the information available to us. We have seen a, little lot less water usage. Looks like about 300,000 gallons down from what we were. Electric costs, should be down also because we've, had less pumping, because of that. John has fixed a lot of leaks in the last 2 months and, has found some others that we are trying to pinpoint exactly. We've replaced some line that had leaks in it that has been ongoing for a long time. So, while these don't necessarily show up immediately, they do show up over time. We have the meters that are, currently out in wells now that let us have a more daily average, showing on the, meters as far as I have it set so that, if it goes over a certain amount, we get an email. And I have it set a little lower than what I expect it to do, just so that we get those daily emails. When we look at our chart on the back, it's showing that we're right, actually online, even though it's saying that we're being wasteful, because occasionally it does go above that line. And so that, I think, is being helpful to us also. We were pumping over 200,000 gallons a day. almost 250, before we had these leaks fixed in April and May. Now we're almost every day, anywhere from 150 to 190 at the most. And this is even with people coming in now and starting to water. So I feel like that we're getting the leaks under control. We just need a little more time to, keep pinpointing where they exactly are. And
Like Mona said, the biggest thing to take away from that, I mean, our total water pump went down, but the amount that we sold went up, because we pumped a lot more this month, because of the watering, people coming into town, we pumped a lot more water, but the total usage dropped. And so the percentage of loss, I think in the month prior was 72%, we had percentage of loss. So I changed the way that we do our system totals report a little bit. Our system totals report in the past was showing total loss, and then Mona had her separate report where she was showing flushing and percentage of loss from leaks. I combined all that into one system total report. When we did the system total report with the leaks and everything figured into it, we were at 57% in water loss, so we're down 20% from the previous month. If you put in the flushing and the leaks that we've accounted for, there's only 32.71% of total water loss that's unaccounted for. That's water loss that we don't know about, don't know where it's at, whatever it may be. So that is a significant improvement over past months, years, what have you. I mean, in the past, and it would have skewed the ones in the, if we would have met back in the past to the previous reports that were at 75%, and then you take Mona's report and you subtract the accounted for water loss. It's still water loss, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to feed you anything. It's still water loss, but it's accounted for water loss. It's a leak we found, we fixed, we know where those gallons went. And then after that, you get into, what I'm worried about is unaccounted for a lot of water loss. How much water is going out that I don't know where it's going? The leaks that we find and we fix, those are gonna happen. They happen on every water system. It's just part of the way things go. But, and I don't disagree. I think Dawn's presentation was great. She's 100% right on. The system is old, and it does need a large amount of repair, and there is a large amount of leaks that I'm sure, and a lot of it is the old galvanized lines. These leaks are incredibly hard to find. If they were PVC lines, like Northwoods is a good example. Northwoods has PVC lines, and we had a problem with those rupturing. And when those lines rupture, we immediately know where they're at. The leaks immediately come to the top of the ground. And a galvanized line, you get a hole that's this big, and it can leak for 5 years, and it never comes to the top. So the only way that we find it is we find it downstream from wherever it's leaking from, and we're able to trace it back to where it come from, or we just happen to get lucky with a listen device on the wall. I mean, it just makes, the one that we repaired in Skyline here, just this last month, or just this month, had been leaking for, I couldn't even tell you how many years. But it was a small leak in a galvanized line that was falling into a city sewer ditch inside in the road, and it never surfaced. We had no idea it was there, and the only way that I found it is because I stepped across it with a listening device and I heard it. And so we was able to get down there, find it, and fix it. And that was a situation where we found multiple mains in a place that weren't even on our map. The map that we have doesn't even show them being in the correct place. But we were able to get down there, find them, and repair multiple lines in the same ditch. So we're making big headway, and I just wanted to point that out as Mona was speaking, that we're in this time of year, we're selling more water, but the leaks are going down. We're definitely making progress. There's positive things happening. Yes.
Can I ask a question? So, last month's report, you guys put 40,000 gallons of flush
Yep.
and fire.
Yep.
And this month it's 3.58 million.
That's because of the amount of leaks that we repaired.
that's the Skyline leak, a lot of it,
Right.
Yep.
and the Elm leak and the Christina leak.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna go up. The more leaks to repair, the more flushing we have to do, the more accounted for loss. It's hard to, especially Skyline and Elm, both of those leaks could have been leaking for 15 years. I have no idea. There's just no way to know because they weren't surfacing. I don't know
Right, but
whether-
we're not talking about accumulation of gallons changed over 15 years. We're talking about month to month, accumulation. of
Correct.
gallons.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
So, I mean, that's a big change from last month to this month.
It's a huge change, yeah.
To
But the
off of-
total consumption hasn't changed, like I would think if you decreased a leak, your total consumption total pumped would reflect in that. It's just you're shifting numbers from one area to total, from total pumped to flushing and those types of things.
Now, these numbers, we've always done the flushing and the numbers that Mona had on her reports. They were just never included on system total reports.
So you just added 3.5 million gallons to Mona's report,
No,
Well, no.
we
You-
took what,
or more, sorry.
You have to take, when you're reporting to DNR, you have to report the amount that you use to flush the lines. You have to report, the amount of loss for the leak. You have to tell them, I mean, yes, you have the amount that was sold, and then you have to take all that in consideration. They call that accounted for water that you pumped. Now, your pumping is going down. So that's reflected in what we showed in those losses, that the pumping also went down.
But if you flush 3.5 million gallons to fix the leaks, would that not show up in your total consumed pumped, or your total pumped?
It is
If
in
you
the total
added-
pump. It is in the total.
It
pump.
hasn't gone up from last month though. That would mean that your total pump would be up 3.5 million gallons.
Not when we've been repairing leaks and the total pump is going down. If it stayed the same, I would be really concerned, because that means that we still have something major leaking out there that we aren't catching up anywhere. We need to, those figures need to come down.
So you're saying that you flushed 3.5 million, but that you've repaired 3.5 million in leaks.
You have the flushing
Because your
and
total pumped
the-
is,
The flushing
same.
and the loss are in that 3
Right.
million.
it's a
but the
total-
loss was already there. So if your total pumped is approximately the same in April as it was in March, they're about the same. And your flushing is now at 3.5 million, but your total pumped is not up 3.5 million. That to me is, you're saying that, and I'm trying to clarify, I'm not saying it's not true, I'm just trying to clarify. If you're flushing 3.5 million, but your consumption or your total pumped is not going up 3.5 million, I would assume that means that you've repaired 3.5 million of leaks.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
That's
what I'm
exactly,
asking.
that's
Yep.
exactly what it is.
Okay.
I mean, in that flushing report, just like Mona said, we have to do an estimate of how much water we think can come out of there. So like a Northwood leak is a perfect example. When those leaks rupture, and we've actually, the well is running, the performance of the well is so close now that within, I mean, a few days, it was 177,000 gallons for 3 days in a row. I'm not exact, within a few hundred gallons, but that's the best I've ever seen it do. So, I mean, it's amazing to us to see it being so consistent. So when the Northwood leaks happened, we didn't know until like three days out that the leak had happened, but we knew, we could go back and look and you could see it go from 177 to 180 to 185. We could see a gradual increase, and we knew there was a leak happening. So, I mean, and it's great that it's that consistent, because it just never has been. I mean, in the beginning, we was almost 300,000 gallons a day, and now we're at 170, 180, 190,000 gallons a day. That kind of consistency is, I mean, it's great. It really is getting better, but everything that we do, those leaks, we try to go back, and it's not 100% accurate, but it's as close as we could get. And the Missouri Rural Water has a calculator where you can go in and you can put estimated days from the time the leak started. When we cut out and make a repair, we try to average the size of the leak, a 6-inch crack, a 1/4 inch wide, whatever it may be, and you can put all those figures in there, and this is an estimated loss of water, and that's what we included. So it's not a number that we're just fabricating. It's a number that, we use a calculation to estimate the amount of gallons of loss, and then we just add it into the report.
So theoretically, you balanced out between flushing and what you repaired in leaks, so that balanced out on your total pump. So theoretically, next month, the total pumped, we should see a significant, I would assume at least 2, maybe possibly 3 million gallons and less being overall pumped, correct?
It should
You
be down
see
around
that
6
in
million.
the current figures, but just like he said, we had dropped it down, and then within a 3-day period, it jumped 20,000 gallons a day. And so you've got a new leak. So it's gonna bounce back up even though you did this back here.
But we should see a trend down on the overall pumped.
We would think so,
That's definitely
that's
the
our
hope.
hope. I
Definitely the
mean-
hope, is that everything starts.
Well, with that.
We're-
much
I'm
of a
just
drop,
trying
it
to
should be at
interpret
least
it.
2
We
million.
don't-
I understand,
you
I
know.
understand. We see electric usage, trending down, that's why we had the new meter installed at the office well. I just recently installed the new meter at the tower well, because that meter tracks the gallons so specifically that we can see water trends, and we can see them in real time, day to day. We can see how much water's moving through that meter, and we can see downward trends as they're happening. And just the fact that we're getting a consistent trend is amazing. So, I mean, that's, unless there's any more questions about that specifically, I don't know what else I can say about the water loss itself, but it is trending in a positive way.
Thank you for that, because just looking at the raw numbers, there's no way to know.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. I mean, the information, like I said, the information that we put together, there's a lot that, I mean, and like I said, I'm not trying to hide the fact that there's a higher percentage of loss. It just makes sense for it all, like Mona said, yeah, it's accounted for loss. So people aren't out here thinking we're 75% of the water that goes in the ground, we have no idea where it goes. I mean, in reality, it's still 32% is still not great, but it's a lot better than 75. At least, a high percentage of it, we know where that water went. We know where the leak was at, we got right there and we got it repaired. I mean, like I said, those leaks are just gonna happen. It's just part of the way water systems work. Some are better than others. Do you have any more questions about that, anybody? All right.
That was, basically all I have, was just, we have been seeing a trend down, even though it's not a real high trend at this point as far as looking at the, figures, it is happening, so. And, I did print off some of the current CCRs, if anybody is, wanting them, that's the consumer confidence reports that are the new ones. If you're wanting those, I do have those available here, and they're also online, so, you can go on and download as many as you want.
John, did you wanna go over any more of your repairs?
Yeah, I mean, we can touch on a few of them, and then I had a few other things that I wanna talk to you guys about. April, that was one of the big leaks that we had in Northwoods. There was a 4-inch main. We had two, and I think I spoke to him maybe at the last meeting. We had two happen, one earlier in the month, and then one right at the transition of the month, right as we were doing our finals and reading meters. So, and when there's a break in the 4-inch line at the Northwoods, it loses a lot of water. But like I said, we were able to find them within a couple of days. We had those repaired and fixed. And I speaking to that, just speaking to Northwoods itself, so we get route totals, which we have been working on, trying to get the routes pretty accurate. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. Mona's been working on it while I was off on medical leave, so she's got the routes really tightened up. There was a lot of addresses that were in the wrong places that showed on our sub-meters showed a higher percentage of loss in different areas than it should have. But the water loss in Northwoods right now, and now Northwoods sub-meter, we use the booster pump now, because the booster pump is the most accurate measure of water that's going into Northwoods. And just the water loss at Northwoods, I mean, we were in the realm of 74% a few months ago, and it's at 16.9% water loss. I mean, to drop, that's what I said. 2 repairs there, and that water loss can go back up to 70% in a month. Just because they drop so many gallons when they break. So that was April. We finished the chlorine analyzers, and I'll speak to that in a minute. That's kind of my next thing there. So the Blarney Swamp, the leak at Irish Hills, we still haven't been able to access that yet. So the issue is the rain and the safety of being able to take a machine down there. So as soon as the conditions allow, we're gonna have to get a machine down there to try to figure out where that leak's at and make that repair. But just because it's been so wet and so muddy and it is so steep, it is gonna be a very difficult area to dig in. So we're just waiting for conditions to approve so we can get into those areas. Let's see. So I'll go to May repair. So the leak in Elm was a 2-inch main that was crossing the street there. So while I was on medical leave, Mona oversaw all these repairs and she did an amazing job. She kept me in the loop, phone calls, text messages, pictures of, kind of the chaos that was going on, within these. But Elm was another spot where I found the leak underneath the street. In any spot that, especially if we find a galvanized main line, if we find a leak in the street, we cut all the way across the street and change the whole thing, just cause I don't wanna have to be back there in a month, doing another repair in the middle of the street. So, Elm was one of those. I think there ended up being 2 mains there also.
There was a little line going through there, but we have no idea what it was for.
Yeah, the thought is that it was abandoned. It was an abandoned line, but it was laying in the ditch right next to the existing 2-inch main that was there. But it was galvanized and it did have a few leaks in it, so that whole length all the way across the road, up about 30-some feet that was cut out and repaired all the way across the road, so the road won't have to be dug up again. Fort Camrock was one, we actually have been to this 2 months in a row. We went 1 month, or I went out there 1 month and they had, the meter nut was leaking for no apparent reason, and I tightened the meter nut, stopped the leak, and then while I was gone, I had to go back to it again, and the water had actually worn a hole through the copper loop, and it was leaking around the nut, and so they had to end up digging up and replacing that service there. So I'll talk about the problem that we had at the Hilltop PRB, where the water was down for the evening. So the water never actually stopped there, but for whatever reason, the PRV closed and was only allowing 20 pounds of pressure to go through that PRV. So with only allowing 20 pounds of pressure to go through it, the amount of water, the people at the end of the lines, Church Drive, South Street, are gonna turn on their faucets, the water's gonna go there, and it's not ever gonna be allowed to fill back up because it's keeping the pressure down so much, it's not allowing the volume to go through to keep the main full. So that's what ended up happening in that situation. It took an adjustment of the PRV. The bypass had to be open to get around that and to restore service on that. And unfortunately, that was when I had my leg up in a sling, so I couldn't go to that. But we ended up the next morning, we got that figured out and got the bypass turned on and was able to fill the main back up. And then, so that was what the problem was in that particular instance. And then we kind of spoke about it a minute ago, but I installed the new meter at well 2, so or well 1, so we can better manage the water usage there. The digital meters are amazing. Them sending the reports, the way they track data. I mean, compared to what was there, it's a huge improvement. Huge improvement. So unless you guys have any questions about any of the leaks, move on from that. The next thing I'm going to talk about, which you may want to scrap after hearing the financial report, is from Pedrati. So Pedrati is doing the hookup for our continuous chlorine analyzer and the RACO system. So there was some discussion because we've got the new booster pump system about having the booster pump system tied into the RACO unit that we installed at the tower well. So I talked to Pedrati, and Pedrati sent me a quote just to hook that up, the inputs for that, so we can monitor the booster pumps through the RACO system. So for that, let's see, I've got two. Okay, so their proposal for that, to wire that into the PLC and to be monitored by RACO is $4,615 for them to do that while they're here. So they still have not, they're waiting to hear back on if you guys decide to do either one of these things I'm gonna present to you, so they can do it all at once. Otherwise, it was still part of the package that you paid for before, for them to come down and hook up the current chlorine analyzers in the RACO system as they stand right now. So it was $4,615 for them to hook the booster pumps up, and that tracks data, allows you to see it in real time, and then it also will notify us if there's a failure. If the booster pumps fail, if there's a power fail on the booster pumps, it would immediately notify us. All right, the other thing was, and I talked to you about it, I think a meeting or two before, was installing another RACO unit. I'm not sure why in the beginning, because I wasn't, when you guys originally ordered them, I wasn't a part of that decision, but there was only one RACO unit ordered for the tower well. There won't be one at the office well. So the continuous chlorine analyzer there will not be able to be seen from anywhere else. So to purchase another RACO alarm agent to install at the office and have them install it when they come down is an additional $4,705. That's what they charged for the original Rayco unit. But in my estimation, the continuous chlorine analyzer really doesn't do any good if you don't have the Rayco unit. Because the continuous chlorine analyzer is, if you don't have a Rayco unit or some way for it to alert you if the chlorine is failing or if it's depleting, the only way you're knowing is if you walk in and you look at the unit. It doesn't notify you any other way unless there's a Rayco unit in that building. So, it just makes sense that there would be, to me, it makes sense that you already went through the cost of buying the continuous chlorine analyzer. What's the point of having it if you can't get any data from it unless you're looking right at it? The whole point of having it there is so it can alert us to come in and make adjustments, or, in an emergency situation, come in and get something done before something happens. Before, a chlorine pump goes out and the chlorine residuals start dropping, and it'll alert us to know when we can go and fix something before, the well's been running for 12 hours and it's had no chlorine injected. But in the current situation, you won't have that. The tower will. The tower with the Rayco unit as it sits will have that, because the Rayco unit is there, but the office well will not.
The office well pumps into the ground storage up there, correct?
It pumps into the tower and the system in water.
Tower, yeah, the other one pumps on the ground storage and then up to the tower.
Yeah, yeah, the tower will, yeah. So, those are, decisions that I can't make on, those purchases, either one of them. The booster pumps, again, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, what's the point of having, the PLC panel for the booster pumps if you can't wirelessly monitor it? If it fails, we're not gonna know until somebody calls us out on the water pressure. So, the whole point of having the PLC and the booster pumps in their current configuration is so it has some way of notifying us if something goes wrong. So, it's just up to you guys, but those are the costs, and I don't know if you guys got a copy of these, but I can pass them down if you guys wanna look at them. These are the quotes that they emailed us.
I can email them to you.
Yeah.
So these folks that said they could do the work, are we under contract with them?
We are under contract for the installation that we currently have. And it wasn't, I don't even wanna say under contract. We have an agreement with them to purchase the equipment that we currently have, and they've already been paid to come down and hook that, to do the startup on that system. So when it's the way it currently is, we don't owe them any more money. This is an additional, but they supply this equipment. They supply the continuous chlorine and the Rayco units themselves.
Okay. Is there any way to get the equipment elsewhere and have them do the install?
I don't even know that if the Rayco units are available. I know there's certain distributors that sell those Rayco units. Jerry, do you know if anybody else sells Rayco units? Are you talking about getting like bids? Yeah.
Price comparison bids.
Price comparison,
Yeah.
if it's possible.
Yeah, well, at this point, like Jerry was saying, a lot of the distributors are not selling Rayco units anymore. So, they'd be very restricted on who we can get them from and who can install them. But this is just, these guys, we bought them from them and they're the installers of them, so that's what we've been leaning on. And their specific knowledge of the PLC at the well tower, anyhow, they do all of our work for us, or have in the past, a lot of the work, I shouldn't say all of it, a lot of the work.
So you're looking at the combination of the two, 9,300 and some change. For them to install it while they're here. What would it cost if we make a decision later, farther down, to have them come back down? Would the price go up then?
That was the
Because I know
discussion
they
I had with him.
don't use the city,
He would not give me a price on, a future, to return, but it obviously would be higher if they had to make a second trip.
Is this bid good for 30 days, 60 days?
I think he had 30 days, is that on there? Was there a 30-day price tag on that?
I didn't see one listed,
Okay.
but I could be wrong.
He didn't give me a specific term on the, I thought there was one on there.
I'll take a look at that again.
Sure, yes, sir.
Oh, no problem.
And that was the original company, original well and stuff. That was put in. Yeah, that was all put in originally.
Yeah, there's nothing in here on specific, length of time that the quote's good for, we may need to call them and ask
I
them.
can, yeah, I can talk that.
And also, I would say on top of that, we need to just double check and make sure that there's not a second bid process, somebody else that we can get the same equipment from. I know Tried has worked with our water district in the past, so.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, so I wanted to go over, we had a DNR inspection, on May first, and, I just kinda wanted to touch on it. We passed with flying colors, we got no, they had some recommendations in there, but, we didn't get, any negatives on the report at all. The recommendations was stuff that we really already know about, or is already in the works. Just simple recommendations like, repainting, sanding and repainting the wellheads. They talked about, putting in some protection for the wellheads themselves. With the tower well, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm thinking maybe at the office well, maybe they were thinking about putting concrete post around the cover that's on the wellhead outside, just to protect it from cars or what have you. So, everything that was on, all their recommendations were very minor. And, so it was, overall, it was a pretty good report. I don't even have anything on here. They did biological samples, in several different places throughout the system, all those passed. There's just nothing, almost everything they have on here says no issues found, so, there's nothing really to say about it negatively, so. We provided them with as much information as they could, even, they had a lot already, but, we actually rounded up some more information about well depth and stuff like that, so to get their information on the water system as a total, as current as it could be, but the inspection went great, and like I said, there was, just no problems, no issues at all.
Wanna talk about the tank inspection also?
Yeah, so the tank inspection was kind of the same thing. The tank inspection, they did have some recommendations as well. A few of those things I've already done. Do we have that?
They did not bring it out.
That's okay, that's okay. They had some recommendations. I feel like they were, I mean, their recommendations are stuff that they recommend and they can come and do for us. They recommended that there was some OSHA required confined space signs on that, and I had them put them on while they were there. The ladder for the tower well didn't have a cover to prevent people from being able to get on the ladder. So the cover actually was at the well, so I did install that. They had made some comments about the vent on top of the tower possibly need to be replaced in the future. They had a recommendation about widening the entrance to the tower well, that it wasn't quite wide enough, or they didn't feel like it was suitable. I'm not sure.
Entrance, you mean the door that goes into the well?
No, the driveway.
Oh.
Widening the driveway, yeah, they wanted to widen it out by a couple of feet. I'm not sure where that recommendation came from, but that was one of the recommendations. And then most of the rest of the stuff was, they said next time if there's a shutdown in the ground storage to do an inspection of the rafters and the roof. But there was the only thing that they cited in there was some vines that were infiltrating the ground storage, and we took care of that already. That was part of the old booster pump room that was there, and the, what do you call it, Virginia creeper or whatever it is that was growing the back of it, that could not be accessed because the building was so close to the ground storage, and there was wood siding exposed that had not been covered whenever it was re-sided with metal back in the day. Nobody had, because the booster pump room is there, they did not do that. So I've since then tore that booster pump room down, and it has been sided with metal, and all those lines have been removed. So that is no longer an issue either. There's going to be some repairs. They didn't bring this up. I talked about it with them. Where there, the hatch accesses for the ground storage. There's some decay on the flashing on those entrance doors, but there was nothing noted of huge importance. I mean, it was all pretty small stuff. But inside of the tanks, the condition was good. They were clean, and we expected them to be so. I think we had Mako had been out there 2 years prior and cleaned them. So, yeah, there wasn't any large recommendations as far as that goes. And then I wanted to touch on booster pumps. pumps. So, we had the 2 large breaks in Northwoods, and I was talking with Jerry about this, I think the last meeting or maybe the meeting before last, is the booster pumps had surges, and I couldn't figure out why. I was talking about installing those bladder things to try to absorb some of these surges that they have, but we had it set at 60 PSI. That's, I believe, the way that they set them when they installed them. And so they set them at 60 PSI at like a 30-pound threshold, so when they went down to 30 pounds, they would automatically go back up to 60. And as I go in there and I do, the well checks every day, I noticed this big spike, and it would go down. And then we had a call from somebody that said they had low pressure, and I pulled their meter and put a pressure gauge on there, and I could see the fluctuation in pressure on my gauge at their home. And so I went back to the booster pumps after I talked to Jerry, and I started doing adjustments on the pressures for the booster pumps. And I just automatically went to 55 pounds. It's pretty, that's the best pressure that I can come up with. So I put it at 55 pounds, and that made it super consistent. So it runs at 55 pounds, and actually the booster pumps kick off sometimes now because of the water loss in Northwoods is so low. They will actually power down and shut off and turn back on. And in my experience with this water system, they have never done that. Usually they're running 100 miles an hour and they don't slow down. So they're in a good place too. So the power consumption has already went down there. We'd have more accurate numbers on that, but of course they changed the meter right in the middle of the month. So we don't have real accurate numbers on that, but the power consumption did go down there because the booster pumps aren't running as much, the well's not running as much, so.
What did you say the water loss was in Northwoods now?
16.99%. And that's providing us 100 solely on the fact that we are able to monitor the gallons pumped through that booster pump system. It is accurate to the gallon. It will show you in real time how many gallons the pump are pumping, every second. It's amazing.
Any questions for John from the board? John, I do have a letter here that you addressed the board. I can comment on it, but I wanted to let you have the opportunity to talk to the board about your letter.
Okay. You want to do that now?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
All right, so last week, at the beginning of last week, I put in my resignation with PWSD, and I actually put in notice, a 2 weeks notice for resignation from PWSD. I did make out a formal letter, but I cited a lot of the stuff that is happening, a lot of stuff that Dawn talked about in her presentation. A lot of the back and forth, the social media stuff, the pushback that I've been getting from the city building inspector it's been pretty crazy, and I don't understand it, but it's definitely not the reason that I signed up to take this job. I signed up to take the board position that I took, and the reason that I signed up to take the job is because I felt I was in a unique position to help because of my knowledge of the system, my years of experience with Kimberling City, not to have my name dragged through the mud on social media or have people, rumors, people commenting on me, just like she was saying, people talking about her. Every single time I go to a customer's house, somebody is saying something about somebody else, saying something about me doing this, or what's going on with the board. Or it's constant, it never stops. And then the last situation that I had was, forgive me, I didn't write the date down, but a few Saturdays ago, I was driving through, on a Saturday morning, driving through town with my personal truck. The utility truck is my truck, pulling my trailer, and I was being followed by a citizen that followed me down the street and then turned around and come back towards me, making it known to me, I guess, that I was being recorded for whatever reason. They were holding their phone up in their window, laughing as they went by. I don't understand what was happening. I really don't. But it was my personal time, doing my personal things, and I was on medical leave at that time. So I wasn't doing anything for PWSD. I wasn't pulling around a table rock trailer, doing work for PWSD. So that's the kind of stuff. I did not take this job. I took the job to try to help improve the water system and to help the community. That's what I took it for. Right now, that kind of crap, I'm done with it. I'm just done with it. So I'm gonna move on, and I hope that it stops. I hope that, Don said, I agree with her 100% that the city and the water system should definitely be working together for future growth. The whole city should, everybody as a whole should be working together for future growth. Name calling and following people around and dragging people's names through the mud, it's just total crap. And it's not positive for anyone, it doesn't help anyone at all. So, and I apologize for getting, a little angry there, but.
Let me ask you a question. Harassment is a misdemeanor crime if it annoys the individual harassed. A second offense of harassment is a felony, I believe, with a serious punishment. Would you stay on if we can talk to the people that are harassing you and see if we can get it stopped?
I just don't, that's the point, I
mean,
don't think it'll
it's
stop.
a criminal act to do what you're talking about.
Yeah, I understand. I just don't, I don't think it'll stop. I mean, I dealt with it a lot when I was with the city, when I worked as public services manager for the city of Kimberly City, but it wasn't as bad as it is right now. And I've only been here for 4 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it's been. And it's just been, I mean, the social media stuff. And I'm not on social media. I don't read a lot of it. Every single person I go to, do you know what they're saying about you on social media? You know what Concerned Citizens is saying about you on social media? Like, I really don't know. I'll check this out. Look at this, look at this, look at this. And I'm just not gonna tolerate it. I'm not gonna do it. I can go back to running my own business and go to places where I'm appreciated, people appreciate me being there and doing the work that I do. And that's it. And I apologize for any inconvenience. I mean, I hate it because, I mean, there's progress being made. But, I can't do it.
I've only been here a week, and I tell you, I can appreciate you already.
I appreciate that.
Is it worth having a discussion with you tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll talk to anybody about it, yeah.
I'd like to try to dive into it a little bit, I would like to hear a little bit more about what you're going through.
Okay.
I could,
Contact the office, is it
I'll
good?
contact you tomorrow.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, just whenever you're available, if I'm available, I'm more than willing to sit down and talk to anybody.
Sure, I mean, I can meet you out on the job somewhere, we can just talk while you're working.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have nothing under old business. We're gonna move on to new business, which is personnel matters. Amanda,
Yes.
I believe you have some changes in your office.
Yes.
Personnel, and, I know I discussed a little bit with you today on that, so,
Right.
go ahead.
Yes, Debbie has taken a position with another organization, and has been helping us out coming in the evenings and on the weekends to, accomplish billing and matters such as her position did entail. With that, Mona and I have been learning the software, that Debbie had been trained on, and we're trying to kind of maneuver our way through that, with Debbie's help, and we are on the phone with the software company multiple times a day. They know our phone number by heart. So that is happening. We would like to eventually relieve Debbie of this, because working a full-time job and then coming in the evenings for a part-time job, when you really just wanna sit on your back porch and have some wine, is not fun. So eventually we would like to really be able to relieve her of this evening weekend position I would like to be able to absorb her position. That way it's in the office, I would be able to know what is going out, what is coming in, who is doing what. It'll be a little more centralized and a little easier, to discern what's happening. It worked Debbie and I worked very well together, we communicated very well together. But it doesn't matter how well you communicate, there are always miscommunications. So with that, I think that we will eventually, probably in the near future, look at moving forward with that, being able to relieve Debbie so she can sit on her back porch. That would be ideal, and Alan and I visited about that. That
What
is-
about your time on the back porch?
I don't have back porch. And as you all know, because I'm sure you guys have been in the office, I do bring my dog to work, so he's with me all the time anyway, so. Yes.
So Amanda,
Yes.
a couple of the things that we had talked about
Yes.
today is, you feel like you can absorb the job.
Yes.
We're currently paying you $15.50 an hour.
Correct.
I would make the assumption that if you're taking on this much more responsibility and actually covering the job that was previously covered by 2 full-time, we need to discuss as a board a pay increase on that, if we go down that route. My other concerns that you and I talked about today was, you're entitled to vacation, you're entitled to days off, and we had a lengthy discussion about, you vacation similar to I do, you take a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend periodically. We had talked about that, and with Mona sitting by your side and helping you with the office, you feel like the office could be covered in your absence on a certain length of days.
I do believe so, and like you and I had talked about, if, I can get my email on either a cheap laptop that we can come up with for the district, or, I can set it up on my iPad, or, so when I am gone, there are options to be able to monitor emails, and of course, with the, answering machine, which is still a machine actually, we can put the emergency number on there and, our email address, in case there are issues, people can call the emergency phone or email, and we can get back to them promptly. So those types of things, are very manageable, I believe. And like I said on the phone, we can always revisit, after a few months and see how things are going, and reassess after that.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, in the I wouldn't be able to be there like during the day, but Mona would be able to be, but I could still do, come in at any time. I don't have any problem with this being a part-time job for me, and I mean, I would be more than willing to, if Amanda wants to get together in the evenings or on a Saturday, and I could kind of run her through what I do so she can do it. And then, but I would be very willing to go ahead and fill in here and there, or whatever, so if she does
I
wanna
think
take.
that's how you started with the water district, wasn't it? You filled in a long time ago.
Yes, that's exactly how I started. I
Years
did,
ago.
when Jody had her 3rd child. I worked there then Nancy had a heart attack, and so I ended up there for about 2.5 months.
Well, I think with Amanda, having a good grasp on the office and with the accounting firm with your assistance, I think we'll take, my opinion is I'd take your lead, on what you wanna do with the office, so.
So you want me just to me and her visit and figure out how we wanna do
Yeah.
it? I mean, it's been a little bumpy, because she just doesn't know a whole lot about what I do.
There's been some discrepancy in how we do it and things like
But
that.
it's,
So
I
we're
mean,
learning.
it's been pretty good though.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got, the work's been getting done.
Right.
The payments are being posted, the month end's been getting done, everything's been getting done. It's just a matter of, we just gotta kinda get in a,
It's the communication,
Gotcha.
like I said.
So, other personnel issue that would fall under new business that we need to discuss is, if John's resignation letter sticks and we're without, John Dowdy in the capacity that he was in. John, I know you had spoke with me a little bit in regards to what you feel the person who would come after you would need to be able to accomplish and skill set that they would need. I believe you had mentioned to me, and I'm assuming the offer would still stand, that you would help us write the job description for somebody who comes after you. And obviously, there's not gonna be that many people with the PRB knowledge and that kind of stuff, that you would help us get our guy up to speed, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I would work with Amanda on at least getting that figured out. Do you still think that's a full-time position, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that would be the most appropriate approach. Now, my question for the rest of the board is, if Amanda is going forward going to be taking on the responsibilities of both positions that we previously had, and at $15.50 an hour, do you guys want to have a work session, or do you guys want to discuss a pay increase for her taking on additional responsibilities?
I think it would make sense to actually have the financial outlook in front of us, so we can, however we get it worked out to them. Yeah, I think, it's an opportunity to, reward her with some more money, but it's also an opportunity to save money for the district.
Alan, would you be available that we could do a work session of looking at the finances to try to get them leveled out and come up with the, maybe a little bit better monthly budgeting for each department, so we can we can make sure that the numbers that we've been hitting the last couple of months don't continue.
Yeah, just let me know when you're ready.
Why don't you guys, get with Amanda on your availability, and we'll do a work session, and if we can get Alan down here, that'd be great, because he knows the numbers better than anybody, so.
We'll all be in touch. Perfect.
Anybody else have any questions on personnel issues? Seeing no further, business in front of the board, the meeting stands adjourned. Oh, I'm
I do
sorry.
have one more thing, Jason, I'm so sorry. And I don't know if the board wants to address this, or if it should be addressed, individually. We have a client, who is deceased, and this person, their account is inactive and the home is vacant. Like I said, the owner's passed away, and the son, has taken over the home. The son has not paid the bill. So, he owes us $170.61. However, I visited with Jody, and Jody said because he was put on inactive and vacant, we stopped reading the meter in 228 of 23. Well, I called on, recommendation, I called the assessor. And there's a lien on this property by the city, who is still billing him, even though he's been dead for years. And he is still incurring different, late fees and whatnot. He owes the city over $797. So, there are a few questions I have.
Do we have a padlock on the meter?
Yes, I do believe so. So there are a few questions that I have for the board and how you would like to go about this. We have another customer who has previously asked for the meter to be removed, and we said no. That was discussed, I think, at the last meeting. And so they're being charged the base rate. And so my question is, this person is not being charged that base rate, but why? You see what I'm saying?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so for instance, the people that are not using the water, they still have the meter. They're being charged for the base rate for the meter, basically the use of the meter, correct? Okay, this home still has a meter. So they should be, in theory, being charged the base rate.
Yeah.
Okay, so they should still be incurring the late fees, is that correct? And then, if we send them certified letters, which that's not going anywhere. So, my question is, do we want to go back to 28 or 23 and bill him? Or do we wanna leave it as it is and leave it like that? Or do we wanna go forward?
We need to go back and look at the original, because I know that our agreement,
If it was put on inactive by the board, you can't charge after you put it on
the
active.
the board of directors put it on inactive, or who put it on inactive?
Jody did.
Who did?
I believe Jody did.
Okay,
You've got an authorized officer.
right. Okay. We need to go back and look at
Okay.
our actual policies so that we don't make these mistakes going
Sure,
forward. So-
right, well, I just wanted to double check with that because, you know, that one, we did talk about that, and then there was this one, and so when I called the assessor and I saw that the city was still billing them, and has a lien on the property, I thought, well,
Well, let's look
Okay.
back at our policy,
Okay.
line by line, maybe even send it to our attorney here
Sure.
and let him take a look at it too.
Two problems.
Okay. Absolutely.
The customer was not the son.
Yeah.
When.
Yeah.
Is the water bill still under the deceased person's name?
It is under the son's name.
It is under the
I
son.
did try to phone the son, we do have we have a contact for someone in Dallas, Texas, and I did try to reach out to that person, and it was a disconnected.
Did the son sign the user agreement?
I will look, I do not know that, yes, I will do some more investigation, I kinda, after this came up, I got a little swamped doing a few other things, so, yeah, I will dig into this a little bit better tomorrow, keep you posted. With that, I'm done.
Anything else?
I'm done, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further business in front of the board, the meeting stands adjourned.